Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Women's Maximum Fitness Podcast. Today is Sunday, January 3rd. Happy New Year. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some stuff that I've seen lately on social media that's trending, maybe triggered me a little bit, but more so, I would like to provide some information. As you start assessing your goals for the new year, many people have health goals. You want to drop some body fat, gain muscle, and are, thinking about hiring a coach or, finding information on the internet, researching what's going to work out best for you, et cetera, et cetera. What this short podcast is going to be about is levels, and every level requires a different devil. And this is 100% true. I have been at various levels of fitness in my life. It has taken priority. It has been on the complete back burner, which is kind of what happened during COVID and a good portion of 2018 when my daughter was sick. My own health was absolutely brushed to the side. And I want to give you a little bit of my background, and then I want to give you these levels so that you can understand, what the risk is versus the reward, what you're willing to do for the payoff, and, maybe what you're not, so that you have expectations that are realistic for what you're capable of doing, not just within a time frame, but within within what you're expecting. Because I've had clients or people in the past who have shown me pictures from Instagram or other social media of athletes, and they say, oh my goodness, I'd love to look like that. And there's various reasons why they will absolutely 100% never look like that. But also maybe even never look like that on their own level, because they're not willing to do the things that that athlete is willing to do. And maybe that athlete is, doesn't even look like that most of the time. So all these things need to be taken into consideration. But first, let me tell you that I have a huge background with eating disorders. I started dieting when I was 12 years old, had my first 1,200 calorie diet that I had pulled from probably some sort of a teen magazine or maybe a women's magazine, and, had a book of calories, calorie counters. That was like all the food. It had things like, a small potato is approximately this many calories. And I think maybe it had the carbohydrates in there. I don't know how much it had macros in there, or, we definitely weren't calling them macros. So you would just essentially be keeping track of calories. During that time, more low fat was the craze. So, that's when they came out with reduced fat Oreos, and the potato chips that had were made with Olestra came about 8 years later, 8 years later, when I was 19 or 20. And I lived off those things when I was very, very skinny and dieting. Essentially, just had diarrhea all the time. Not all the time, but that's what my morning stool would look like, because I would usually have almost a bag of those chips and a salad with fat-free dressing for dinner. So it would just run everything through me. And then I had another salad at lunchtime usually. And I had half a Slim Fast shake mixed with water, or half water and half skim milk for my breakfast in the morning. And then I was also taking ephedra. This was in 1999, 2000 type of year. But anyways, my first diet started when I was 12 years old. And I just remember not even being able to stick to it for a day or two. And I remember cheating, whereas now I tell clients, you need to weigh out foods rather than measure them if it's not like a liquid. Even so, like weigh out 16 grams of peanut butter or do a tablespoon and like scrape the top off. The weight is going to be the accurate measure of something. So I remember eating blueberry fat-free frozen yogurt and cramming it into a half cup measure so that I could, measure out half a cup, just packing it in there, which, obviously wasn't a serving. So, I was going over my diet. One day on my diet and all I wanted to do was, it just made me, the restriction made me want to binge. So eventually I got into binging. I was running. I became like a runner, did a lot of rollerblading and started binging and then making myself throw up. By the time I was 15 years old or so, I was binging and purging. I went into counseling at that point. I was put on, I can't remember all the names, but 4 different types of antidepressants. Medicated, had counseling. We're trying to figure out the source of the trauma, or, of the eating disorder, which was some trauma. And, and I mean, to say the least, I've been in and out of counseling ever since, not necessarily for eating disorder, but I do at this point in my life know that certain foods trigger me, or I will, when I'm emotionally stressed or, for other reasons, I do, I turn to food. I will 100% admit that. And now it's not to the point where I am shamed about it, but I mean, even after this quarantine time where my gym time was taken away for the most part, and then I developed a shoulder injury and I have an ongoing torn meniscus. So I have an ongoing knee injury. So training isn't as fun as it was 3+ years ago. So the last few years have been me working through injuries. And then again, not really disciplined with my diet. And part of me, for 2018, when I wasn't able to work because Anna was really sick, I'm not going to get into that too much, but she was having breathing difficulties and we couldn't figure out what was going on. And we finally did figure that all out, and that's more of a private matter and it's handled. But, she was to the point where she was doubled over, could barely catch her breath. And I would leave to go to work, get my work done as fast as I could, and then come back home. Like going to the gym and leaving her was not, I didn't care, all I was concerned that she was going to end up, because she would often call me or whatever if I was gone and say, Mom, I'm having trouble breathing. And then I would rush right home. So obviously that was a priority. And no, it wasn't good to not take care of myself. And yes, I was probably going to the gym once, maybe twice a week. So it wasn't a priority at all. And during that time, I didn't post anything on social media because I honestly had come off a prep that I didn't do in 2017. I was very ashamed of, not being that lean, which you can't hold on to that leanness anyway, which is what another thing I'm going to get to in a little bit. But, I just felt like I shouldn't post these pictures of myself. People are going to judge me. I'm going to have to explain. This is part of the anxiety of having a social media that is, a big following. Like you're supposed to, like for women, it's really, it really makes me mad, but like you aren't supposed to age. And, you're not supposed to have, your weight isn't supposed to fluctuate. You're supposed to continuously getting better. And, I'm going to admit it right now, people, I am on the down, I'm on the down slope. Like 45 is coming up on me. It's getting more difficult, maybe in 2 years after Anna's out of the house. But I feel like I am going to be so, that's something else I'm going to have to handle because I have never like I've not been without her for more than 13 hours for in the last 2 years. And then it will be 2 more years. So like I've never been without her. So I was talking to her about it. There's nine deer just went across the trail. I can see out the window. Sorry. So I was talking to her about this because she goes back to school tomorrow. And I was saying how like this is going to be a huge adjustment for me. I'm going to go to work, probably going to go to the gym. I'm going to come home, I'm going to eat dinner and go to bed. Like I don't have to put somebody to bed. I don't have to yell at somebody to pick up their socks. I don't have to make dinner for somebody else. It's crazy. So I don't know. I might, I talked to my mom about moving back in with my mom. Maybe at that point that'll happen. I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, but it's there. It's in my head, So anyways, 2018, I didn't really post a lot on social media, and my like interaction really dropped. 200-300 likes for a picture, whereas now it's 800, 1200 or more. So the interaction is there, and I feel like people appreciate the realness, because honestly, I'm not a bodybuilder in the sense that I'm not super disciplined. I started weight training because it was a healthy way for me to manage my love for food. So as soon as I had stopped doing all the cardio that I was doing and I started eating more and I stopped taking ephedra, I was, I knew like, okay, if I ate too much, like it was fine. I just go to the gym the next day, use it as fuel. That was how I built a lot of the base of my muscle. And, I would eat a lot, not always before I went to the gym, but afterwards I usually would. And I never felt like it was too much or whatever. But the different times in my life where I've been injured or something has come up, or like, for instance, this past year with the quarantine, it has been really hard for me. Plus, like I was working more, it just was a stressful time. I am a very empathetic person, and I tend to absorb the energy of, the world, people. Like, I I recently had some guy I think it was New Year's Day, troll my Instagram, basically said, stop sticking your tongue out. Like, you don't look cute. You look stupid. And so I deleted the comment. I blocked him. And then he went over to my other Instagram and he was like, what happened to you? You got fat. Why do you talk like a baby? And like just was going off. And, I was just like, well, like I've been steadily getting bigger over the last 3 years. That's what I was thinking. Like, where have you been? Like, I didn't just get fat any more than people get skinny. And I don't look like I do for contest prep. And, this has just been me sort of adjusting with life and doing what I can, which I think people really need to understand, that everyone is just doing the best that they can. And it's not that they're not, they don't necessarily need discipline. They don't necessarily need motivation, but it's desperation that causes the biggest change. And then it's only a beginning, it might flip a switch and now you're on the uptick. But like, you don't just change. You don't just go, oh my gosh, I'm tired of binging, or I'm tired of starving myself, I'm going to be healthy. You are going to make steps to be healthy. And then you're going to figure out what you're capable of long term. And that changes all the time. And that's okay. Like, it's okay. And I think some people, especially you get some of the younger coaches who haven't experienced a lot of maybe a lot of things in life, a lot of trauma, a lot of experience. They just haven't experienced a lot of life. You know, I'm a single mom. I, you know, have worked several jobs. You know, like all these things are variables. I don't want to say excuses. I don't want to say reasons, but they're all variables, and I have to prioritize them how I want to at any given time. So, you know, I competed in bodybuilding in 2014. It was something that I needed. I needed to do something very, very hard and create something very, very hard because I was going through a divorce, you know, or I had gotten through a divorce, and it was very, very hard, and it left me broken. And I needed to do something that was going to squish me back together. You know what I mean? Like, and nothing but a struggle that was going to be greater and self-induced was going to do that for me. And that's something that I needed to do. And it wasn't like, okay, now it's time to go for my pro card and this is going to be my life. My finest moment was being on stage, seeing Anna see my accomplishment, having gone through all of that with me, seeing the achievement, cheering for me, you know, and it was just the grandioseness of that show is the fact that it took place in the State Theater, which is very, it's just a beautiful old theater. So the setting was amazing, but, you know, it wasn't a huge win. It was a very, very small show. There was one other person in my class, and then there was one other girl in the short class. So, I mean, I beat two people. It's nothing to brag about, and it probably could have gone either way. But that was my achievement, and it's a moment that I don't know if I can duplicate. Like I said, different scenario entirely if, you know, 2 years from now I decide to get back into it. But the direction that women's physique has gone with bodybuilding isn't really something that I feel like I can do justice. So again, it would be something small or whatever. I mean, I'm not going to get into that, but my point is that there are levels, and environment keeps changing as far as competing goes. What it takes to get to those levels keeps changing, and you have to decide if the risk is worth the reward. And so when I am prioritizing my job, my daughter, my finances, and saying, you know what, I'm not going to go to the gym for 2 hours a day, you know, and my training was different then too, but I did a lot of volume training. I loved being at the gym, and I probably trained 5 or 6 days a week. So like, you know, that's what my training was when I started. And I needed a lot of that volume because I didn't have probably a lot of good technique down. I didn't understand intensity nearly as much. I just did the best I could with the information that was available, which is exponentially more now, almost to the point of it being overwhelming, which is kind of why I wanted to do this video. So, you know, it isn't really an excuse or kind of, I mean, it's kind of explaining where I am now, but first of all, let me say this, and I'm just going to be 100% honest with this. My goal for this year is to try to figure out where I can keep a good balance with, you know, what can I consistently do as far as training goes, and what can I consistently do as far as diet goes. And I am one of those people that loves, I love new beginnings. I love the start of a new year, I feel like to measure your progress and your success, it takes a year. And I love evaluating things in life year by year, because of course you have weeks and months along the way, and you should be doing smaller goals and checking things off along the way. But I love, looking back at a year and saying, this is what I accomplished this year. This is where I am last year. A lot of this for me is financial, because I know for the first 3 years of my life after my divorce, I was making right around $10,000 a year. And obviously we were super freaking poor. We were super poor. So, taxes for me is something where I'm like, I gotta pay. Yes. I'm doing so, I'm doing so good. So sorry, obviously I am a very emotional person, and I've always been like that. And that's kind of how the women are in my family. We cry at the drop of a hat, and that's just how it is. So, so from one year to the next is a good measure for me. But, I think that I'm recording again. Sorry, I had to stop for a minute. I know it's like really unprofessional when I burst into tears or whatever. And obviously, like, I've been getting over being sick too, so my voice is a little bit froggy. But, I use years as measures of how to measure my success from one year to the next. And not everything is like, the priorities shift from one year to the next. So for this year, I look at pictures from my prep from 2017, a show that I never finished. I got down to, I think, just under 130 pounds. And I would realistically say I had 8 more pounds to lose. But at the time, and this is what I'm talking about with levels, everyone sees those pictures, the videos of me posing. Oh my gosh, they just love it. And frick, I love that physique too. It's beautiful. It doesn't even look like I have, it looks like, oh, you could walk around like that and look really, really good. But I was cycling between 950 and 1100 calories. And my cardio was kind of sporadic, but I was definitely doing cardio at an hour clip, with sometimes doing HIIT cardio. So I would say an hour of cardio at least 5 days a week along with my training. Obviously, that's not sustainable. So my goal for 2021 is, I started a cut. I started doing some cardio, which I honestly really love. And it's been great for strengthening my knee too. I had dry needling done in my knee, and that has been super helpful. I'm able to do the stair climber again. So I'm doing the stair climber and post workout or post my weight training. And I'm on this path. I want to see what I can get to and maintain, and still, be able to maintain it and be healthy, not be, I shouldn't be eating 1,400 calories in a day or whatever, especially because, and this is what I compare it to, during the quarantine, I was working a lot. I have a cleaning business, for those of you who don't know, and I was sanitizing 9 buildings twice a day. And I was walking, this is a huge variance, but I was walking between 10 and 15 miles a day. So I was freaking exhausted. And I got a huge overuse injury in my shoulder and my arm. My bicep tendon was very inflamed. And it's still, I'd say it's at all about 90%. So it still gets triggered a little bit after some training. I'm still trying to figure out training for that. But my PT had said that a lot of that was due to me not going to the gym. I had a lot of weakness and atrophy in my back. And then the forward motion and reaching and everything else caused all these this overuse injury and pain and everything else. So I had to let that heal, you know, and at the same time, my knee started to bother me more. And so I was getting that checked out and all these other things. But that's my goal for this year, because I'd like to look leaner. I would like to be a little bit leaner. But truthfully, you know, I've been hanging out around 150 pounds, and my whole life, my whole high school life, I weighed 104, right around 140 pounds. So I got up to like 155 when I was in college, before I dropped out of college because I was suicidal, because my eating disorder had just gotten out of hand again. You know, back home, back to counseling, you know, all these ups and downs with, you know, with my family, with my emotions, all struggling from all different traumas that happened to me at different points in my life. And, you know, it manifested in the form of eating disorders. So that will always be something, and it's still something that comes up in counseling. But the eating isn't disordered. It's just more emotional. It's emotional eating, and I don't guilt and shame myself, but I know what I would like to look like. And I know that I would like to, get some of these behaviors even more under control, but I'm not one of these disciplined people. And honestly, this is not a slam on anyone who has had, you know, so eating disorders, having bulimia is very different than having anorexia, because, you know, the anorexic person is very type A, and the the bulimic person usually is not. So I'm not, in that manner, a very disciplined person. I am more of a creative. I'm more of a sympathetic. I am more of a fly by the seat of my pants type of a person. I've had to work at that a lot to be organized and to be good at time management and successful as a single mom. It's been a lot. I don't think I do it as well as a lot of people, not the parenting, just the organization part. I'm an awesome parent. Okay. But that's my goal for 2021, is to find that balance. And not for social media, but for me, for the rest of my life, to figure out what is the lifestyle that I can maintain, so that I'm not going too far at one extreme and too far at the other extreme. So levels, what are the levels? Okay. You start by cleaning up your diet. Most people are eating too much packaged food, not enough quality protein, not enough fruits and vegetables, not enough water, not getting enough sleep. Okay. That's the first level. And you should see it. If all you did was that over the course of a year, you know, stop eating out, ordering fast food, foods that are, you know, whole foods, one item, focus on stuff like that, you definitely are going to, you'd see some changes. You would feel better. I feel better when I don't eat nearly as many packaged foods, you know, and I probably, even when I'm dieting, I'll have one protein bar, eat me guilt-free brownie, like something every day. And it keeps me on track. So it's, you know, it's whatever. You know, the next level is, each level is more levels of discipline. So now you're adding in your gym time. Now you're more structured about your gym time. Now you're going to the gym more often, you know, and then it gets to the point where, are you willing to stick to your diet and your training when you go on vacation or on the weekends or at a party? You know, and so some of these images that people are looking at of people that they want to look like are, you know, people are taking performance enhancing drugs. They have trained and built a base for 10 years, excuse me, 10 years or more. They've had a background from childhood in gymnastics and cheerleading and through high school with track and soccer. All these things are factors in what can help someone be more muscular as an adult or able to build muscle better. And then you add the factor of, people who haven't had anything traumatic happen to them or have learned to have a healthy relationship with food. How many people is that? Like 99% of the people, obviously I'm just guessing, but there's a reason bodybuilders are called 1%ers, because they literally are the people that can live this lifestyle day in, day out, whether they're in contest prep or off season, in a almost robotic manner. That's not most people. So you have to decide what things you are willing to do and willing to give up, sacrifice, whatever. And then along those lines come the reactions to those things. So I remember when I was dieting, like, I'm not a fun dieter. I don't like dieting. I would guess at least 3 times I screamed at my daughter during my contest prep. I know some people are better about that. Some people have a horrible temper, or they're just angry or moody or whatever. And that can be because of the dieting. That can be because you're just fatigued and exhausted because of that, cardio, weight training, the routine of things. And then you can throw in performance enhancing drugs as well. And that is also going to cause emotional changes. It can cause emotional changes in people. So I have never used any type of a performance enhancing drug before, any illegal steroid or anything like that, which is another thing that I knew it was going to be that much harder for me to compete in women's physique and look good. My lower body holds body fat. I almost no matter what I do, I think even for my first show, you couldn't see it in pictures. It was soft. You couldn't see cellulite from stage, but also the pictures are not as crisp as they are now. I mean, that was even just 6 years ago. So I'm saying that there's levels, and you got to start where you're willing to start and find your way, because you might decide. And I recently had this with one of my bikini clients who, she does a lot of traveling. She would hit it really hard in the gym for 4 to 6 weeks. And then we would take a week off when she would go on vacation. And she realized figured out what her maintenance body was. And I think that's smart. It takes time, and you got to figure out what the levels are. But one of the things that I wanted to say was, as we come into this new year and we come out of this quarantine, like I had this guy tell me that it was fat. It's like, I'm not going to say, like, I'd like to say, oh my gosh, I have such thick skin and nothing bothers me. It bothers me because it was rude, and because that person really was feeling bad about themselves in order to come at me for some reason, and not just like once, but like seek me out. And I didn't even look. I didn't even look at my direct messages. There probably was more in there. Maybe it was somebody I knew or somebody that I had hurt. I have no idea. But that's part of the reason things on social media bother me, because I don't like knowing that this many people are struggling. But one of the things that something that I do notice and I am aware of is that I'm not a super disciplined person. I have to work at it really, really hard. And I empathize with other people that are struggling, who use food for emotional reasons, who have anxiety and, you know, eat gummy bears to calm down. It's hard. It's hard. And we live in a society where it is so easy to numb everything. And it's really hard to face stuff. So acknowledging that, that's part of the reason why, you know, I will find myself back in counseling, because I'll think this behavior is getting out of hand, or my reaction to it is getting out of hand, and we got to handle things. But my point is, new year coming up, people will start when they're ready. They're going to reach out for help when they're ready. You know, and they're going to do things their way with what they can. And that's the same thing that happened during quarantine, which is why every one of my clients, when they checked in, if they were like I had one client who was like, I didn't drink any alcohol this week. And I was like, yay. And she's like, because we ran out, you know? And it's okay, because people, they will, you know, going through something hard, handling it how you handle it, it's going to make you stronger. You're going to learn from it. You're going to realize you didn't like how you felt, you didn't like how you behaved. You can't change it. You can't, you know, you can't do things differently. And so somebody handled it really, really awesome. I know there's a ton of people in my town who got their pro cards. You know, and I gained 10 pounds probably. But I was, like I say, like, I also paid off all my debt. I also had an amazing time with my daughter at home, surprisingly. She's like so much fun to hang out with. So I don't, like, I'm not jealous. I have no regrets. And so for somebody to say like, oh, you gained weight, or like you handled that wrong, or don't try to tell yourself that you you know, you think that you did that the way you should have, because I didn't gain any weight when I was in quarantine, so I know it can be done. Like, people will impose their views on you because of how they handle a situation, and the variables between two people are so grand. You know, that's why it's like, that's why you don't compare yourself to somebody else. So you can use, like, give me some tips, show me some cool behaviors, be be that change that you wish to see in the world. But calling somebody out on, you know, somebody saying like, oh my gosh, you got fat, you totally let yourself go. I didn't, you know, I didn't have a gym. You know, I was exhausted when I came home. I probably ate for 2 hours straight, that passed out, and did the whole thing all over again. So, you know, and in the meantime, my daughter would send me, you know, texts while I was running through the buildings or whatever it was, or I'd come home so I could see her and get something to eat, or, you know, whatever it was. It's okay. And people need to understand that, you know, even if I thought like, even if I have regret now, okay, now I got 10 pounds to lose, that's mine. I own it, you know. I'm still saying I wouldn't change anything. There are very, very few things in my life that I have done that I would undo, especially looking back at it now. I'm like, I lived my life. I own everything, you know. So I think you have to, like, live your life. And if somebody inspires you, or if you can glean stuff from them, or if they're providing you knowledge or tidbits or things that are going to help you get to the next level, then cling to that. But if they're not, you know, you don't need that crap in your life either. So I don't know. There's levels. So I am figuring out now at this year, because that's how I like to measure things in blocks. It's a new beginning. I love new beginnings. I love them. I love the beginning of a new year. It's a fresh slate, and you know, you get to start over and do the best you can. And I just love that. So anyways, this was a huge rant. But every level you need a different devil. So it gets harder, and you got to decide if that's what you want to do or what you're willing to do. And I, this past year I decided what I wanted to do, and now this coming year I'm going to decide what I want to do, because it's my life. I get to decide. And I'm not going to judge what anybody else is doing either, what they should have done or could have done, because I don't know. I'm not them. I'm not them. And I think this is something that maybe only comes from years and years of life and seeing how everybody has a story, or maybe it comes from, my own story of lots and lots and lots of struggle. But, I'm not a robot. I never claimed to be a robot. I never claimed to, I know a lot of stuff. I know how to do a lot of stuff. It's kind of like when somebody's in a bad relationship, anybody can be like, that's a bad relationship. You should get out of it. That's not what counseling is. That's not what coaching is. That's not what psychology is. It's showing that person how they need to change their behavior, and the best way to do that as, somebody who's being followed by people on Instagram is to be real, and say, this is what it is. This is what I'm going through. And you can accept it or not accept it, or like it or not like it, or support it or not support it, or respect it or not respect it. But it, that's what I'm putting out there. I'm not perfect by any means. And, if I was a 1%er, I would be a pro. I'm not. I won one local show and then went on to get my ass kicked at junior nationals, and then had several injuries afterwards. So, which is a whole other podcast. But anyways, listen, let's give grace to people. Let's try to look at them as individuals and be encouraging, a nice word, providing somebody with some hope. That's the beauty of it, is that I can turn my life around at any point. If I don't like the way something is going, I can change it. I totally can. And when I'm ready, I will. And when you're ready, you will. So no amount of judgment or pushing or, whatever, is going to make you do things any differently or make me do anything any differently. So, and opinions don't matter either. So that's it. The theme of my show is healthy looks different on everybody. And I feel like it couldn't be more applicable than it is right now. So anyways, thanks for listening. I hope you have a great day.